Hey everybody, this is my black ghost knifefish tank, although we hardly ever get to see my black ghost knifefish. But I've been in here doing a little bit of work today, and I just want to talk about what's going on in this tank. There's a few things going on in it. One is I have been considering getting rid of the black ghost knifefish since I never see it, and it's just a big bioload in this tank for an admittedly interesting fish, but it's only interesting if you get to see it. Just simply knowing it's there is not that interesting, and I rarely get to see more than a glimpse of its head or its tail poking out from its cave. Now, I could probably rearrange the tank and give it less places to hide or force it out to where I could see it more, but that's not really my style. I really have no desire to put a piece of tubing in there, clear tubing, to have the fish sit in it. That doesn't really interest me either. So I don't know what's going to happen with that one. I'm not really planning on it, but it is an idea that's popped into my head, and it's kind of been rolling around in there. So who knows? We'll see where that goes. The other thing I wanted to talk about was recently I shot some videos where I talked about schooling and shoaling fish and how some fish, it really wasn't that big of a deal if you started with a shoal of 5 or 6 of them, and over time some died off and you had less and less. The fish in this tank I made an exception about, and I said that I've got tiger barbs in here. You see one in the back there now. And tiger barbs are a fish that really should be kept in small groups of at least 5 or 6, because they can be very sort of nippy and aggressive towards other fish if they don't have a little group of themselves to spread the aggression around. Well, what that does is it sort of sticks me in a position of being forced to always keep tiger barbs in this tank. If I ever lose any and I get down to say 2 or 3 of them, well, then I've got to put a few more back in just to make sure I've got 5 or 6, and I can never get rid of tiger barbs. I will just always have tiger barbs in this tank if I continue to do that. So I did have a dead one in there today. I've been watching it for a few days. It's been swimming on its side and looking kind of rough, and figured I would just leave it in there until it finally died, and this morning it was gone. So I removed it from the tank, and I'm down to only 2 or 3 left. I know there's definitely 2 in there, and that may be the extent of how many are left. I'm not sure. But either way, I'm not going to buy any more. I don't want tiger barbs in this tank anymore. I've enjoyed them. They're really cool fish, but I want to do something different. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with this tank yet, but maybe a convict cichlid, maybe a jade eye. Jade eye is very closely related to my T-bar, and they're beautiful fish, and they stay relatively small, so jade eye might be able to go in this tank, and that would be something different. So we'll see what happens, in the future down the road. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. That way you won't miss anything that changes or evolves over time. The other thing I wanted to mention about this tank while we're looking at it is, as I got in there today to do the water change, I noticed that my Cyanobacteria is back. Look at all of the green hair-like stuff. Now, I can never really tell whether that's Cyanobacteria or green hair algae. You can really see it up there on some of the tips of the fern. It's just long strands of green flowing stuff, and that looks very much like Spirogyra algae. But if you look on the wood, I sprayed that with hydrogen peroxide during the water change. I don't know if I'm ever going to get to really see it, and you can kind of see it's in a sort of thick mat, and it's got some strands and strings growing up off of it. So I'm pretty sure that is still Cyanobacteria. That stuff is just tough as nails to get rid of. I did 4 consecutive treatments of the Ultralife blue-green slime stain remover, and I'm not knocking the product. It's a great product. It really does work. But I've got it in this tank so heavily. It's, I say this all the time, that Cyanobacteria is a very primitive, primordial organism, single-celled organism, and it is tenacious. It has not survived for hundreds and hundreds of millions, probably billions of years without, being a little bit of a tough customer. So I still have the cyanobacteria in this tank. I don't know if I'm going to continue trying to treat it or just go back to what I was doing before, of just dealing with it like algae. But one thing I did notice is my Java Fern has a lot of dead material in there now. I pulled a bunch of fronds out that were just, falling loose. I just sort of ran my fingers through it and pulled a bunch out. And all of the green down there in the middle has turned brown and looks sort of stalk-like instead of leafy. So I'm not sure if that was from the treatment. I'm not sure if that's part of the cycle of aging of this Java. I've never had any of my other ones do this before, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that. But that was something else that I noticed while I was in here. So that's really all that's going on in this tank, but I felt like that was a lot to sort of get caught up on from one water change. I wasn't really going to bother with doing much of a video about it. I wanted to just sort of do it and get it done. And while I was in there is when I noticed I had some stuff going on with the plants, and I noticed that I still have that cyanobacteria, and so I figured I would just wait till we were done and shoot this little video here. So as I already said, make sure you're subscribed, that way you won't miss anything. You never know what's going on. I was also working on my native tank today. I did get that nice and cleaned up. Tomorrow I'm going to go out looking for some crayfish. I've seen minnows in the stream, so I know at the very least if I take my dip net, I can take, catch some minnows and bring something back here to start playing with this tank. And I do want to talk about the tank a little bit before I start stocking it up for the summer. So look forward to that video about my native tank. And again, this is my black ghost knifefish tank, even though you never see the black ghost knifefish. So thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you real soon on the next one.